Nah, you got slapped for free. Diddly bang, that's crocodile teeth. Take a look and think why the up with the P. Just pray to my God that it's never free.
This was the most requested video in the GCOR Discord server. Make sure you join if you haven't already using the link in description. Make sure you like, share and subscribe to the channel for all things GCOR GT. The Story of Jalk, Part 1. Jalk is a former GCOR driver, who competed in 23 GCOR GT races from GT Season 2 all the way to Elite Season 2, as well as 3 GCOR F1 races from Gen 4 Seasons 2 and 3. Jalk is one of the greatest drivers in GCOR GT history, as well as arguably the greatest GCOR driver to never win a Drivers' Championship, be it either GT or F1, having finished second in the standings on 2 occasions. Jalk was a driver who defined an era for GT, as he was at the center of a sort of changing of the guard, as the old era of Chaconas, Car Freak, Clone and Genius began to fade out, and newer, fresher faces entered into the series. Then he became the old guard himself along with a few others as the GCOR GT Elite era began. This is a story of victory, defeat, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy it. Jalk's GCOR career began halfway into GT Season 2, back when the league still exclusively ran GT3 machines. Airspeed Racing Mercedes, operated by Hurricane, had just lost their star driver, Driver H, who was fighting for the championship, to Triumph Racing BMW, owned by Noah. This loss was huge for the team, who now had to face the real possibility of deletion at season's end. With Automix, Airspeed, being unable to find his race-winning form from Season 1, the team needed a reshuffle immediately. All of the current big names of GCOR GT were locked into their contracts. Chubby and Mac were at Chubbs Racing, Genius and Chaconas at GN7, Lightning and Driver H at Triumph Racing, Roscope and Gold at Red Bull Genesis, FRL and Mad Mike at Toyota, Jeff and Shiduki at Vare Motorsports, and Season 1 champion Car Freak was out for the season. With no established names to pick from, Hurricane was forced to take a risk and invest in a new crop of drivers. On the week of the January 24, 2025, Hurricane announced that he had signed Ethan, not to be confused with the other Ethan that would join later, and Jalk. They would race immediately in Catalunya for the next round. That round at Catalunya was also the debut of another notable figure in GCOR GT. As a last-minute replacement for Shiduki, Mateus, now a GCOR commentator, would make his first of only 2 starts. Jalk would qualify second behind Lightning, Triumph, putting the entire field on notice. His teammate Ethan would qualify third. Following this, expectations were high for the race. Jalk would falter slightly in the race, finishing 5th with the fastest lap, while Mateus would score the victory. It was clear that from this moment, Airspeed would be safe and sound with Jalk and Ethan behind the wheel, and despite there not being enough time to challenge for the title, there were still 3 more rounds left to prove their worth. While Ethan would not race again after this appearance, Jalk would continue at the team, and continue to impress. Jalk would arrive for round 12 of the season at Brands Hatch, qualifying 4th before recording a 3rd-place finish in both the sprint and the race behind the Triumph duo of Driver H and Lightning. While the 2 Triumph drivers were stealing the spotlight, Jalk was emerging as the best of the rest in the upper midfield. Entering round 13 of the season at the Red Bull Ring, Jalk qualified well once more, and would start in third alongside Matthias on the second row. And while he would eventually fall to fourth in the race, the message sent was clear that he had the pace to one day take victory. It would just be a matter of when that victory would come. In the last round at Interlagos, all the headlines were on Lightning and Driver H, as they entered the weekend at the climax of their historic title fight. Other drivers were also left battling for midfield positions, including Jeff, Roscoe, Mac and Genius battling for 5th through 8th. Jalk, at this point could at best only finish as high as 9th, but his late season charge had attracted the eyes of the teams, who were planning for the next seasons. Jalk would once again qualify third behind the Triumph duo, and would finish third behind them in the sprint and in the race, setting the fastest laps in both and at times running amongst the championship too. As Jalk gained confidence and speed in GCOR, the season ended with him in 9th place, leaving many questions as to whether or not he could have fought for the championship had he completed the full season. Over the off-season, Jalk became one of the hottest commodities among the teams, with many of the strongest vying for his signature. It would be a challenge for Airspeed to keep hold of him, and eventually, he would depart Airspeed in one of the most important moves in GCOR GT history. The transition for GCOR GT Season 2 to Season 3 was dramatic and extreme, and many of the drivers, owners, and invested parties argue to this day that the aura around GCOR GT was not the same after Season 2 of GT3 competition. Both Genius and Chaconas announced their retirement from full-time competition in GT, stepping away from GN7, although both would remain with the team, Genius as the outright owner and Chaconas still racing for GN7 Mercedes in F1. Lightning and Driver H both departed Triumph, with Lightning leaving the series for good and Driver H departing for Red Bull to partner Roscoe, being replaced by Gold, and Crazy Kai would sign for Triumph 2 to replace Lightning. GN7 would sign Jeff from Vaare Motorsports to form one half of their driver lineup, while Gold would sign on as reserve. It seemed as if Airspeed were going to be able to hold on to Jalk after all, before Jalk received the call from Genius. On the 18th of February 2025, Jalk officially signed with GN7 Racing to drive the Porsche 911 alongside Jeff. This was monumental transfer news at the time, with Jalk finally being at a championship-level team where his full potential could be realized. This was once again a huge blow to Airspeed, who were not expecting their new star driver to depart, and would once again be forced into a reshuffle. Now, the reason why I said that this was one of the most important transfers in league history is not because of the move itself, but because of the effects that this move had on the league dynamic. As a result of Jalk's departure, Airspeed nearly fell out of the league, but were saved by two drivers who joined, Bali and Monaco, and the two would gain partial ownership of the team, with it being known as Airspeed JBEM from that point on. It was the introduction of one of the most important teams in GCOR GT history. It felt as if a new era was dawning for GCOR GT. Season 3 was about to begin, with Jalk and Driver H Red Bull as the clear championship favorites. Despite the massive team shakeup at GN7, they were expected to still compete at the top of the constructors. As the grid prepared for pre-season testing at Fuji, all eyes were on the drivers to see how well they had settled into their new rides. The GCOR world was shocked once again, as Gold, Triumph Racing, would emerge with the victory, with Jalk in second and Driver H in third position. Gold had emerged from pre-season with the momentum and bragging rights, proving that Triumph Racing still had their race-winning ability. Entering round 1 at Autopolis, the question now was whether or not anybody could stop Gold's momentum, and as they hit the track, it soon became clear that they could not, as he would take his first career pole position and convert that into his first win, while also setting the fastest lap in what is to this day his greatest performance in GCOR. Jalk would qualify third and finish fourth in the race, while Jeff also struggled. The new era of GN7 was getting off to a rocky start.
Gold is going to take victory in the pre-season race at Fuji. Here he comes. The excitement is building, and he has done it. Beast Mode, Genius, Skip Pratt, Atomic Chaconas add gold to the list of race winners at Autopolis. Gold is a GCOR race winner.
Season 3 continued to unfold, with round 2 at Suzuka, a track where GN7 had struggled the previous year. Qualifying hinted at more of the same, with Driver H and Roscope, Red Bull, locking out the front row, and Jalk in fourth. Jalk would recover well to record a second-place finish in the sprint, and would use this momentum to power through to a first-ever GCOR race victory, taking the fastest lap in the process. The result put him right alongside Driver H at the top of the standings, and the two predicted favorites were now engaged in a fierce points fight for the rest of the season. However, a new face would arrive to temporarily put the title fight on pause. Sivu, Triumph Racing owner, would step in for Crazy Kai at the third round in Laguna Seca and would show up with formidable speed. But Jalk would show his fighting spirit, taking his first ever pole position for the race. However, Sivu would just be too fast, cruising to an easy victory in the race, with Jalk in second place. Jalk was now the most informed driver in GT, and more of this would certainly mean a run at the title was on the cards. Round 4 of the season at Watkins Glen started poorly for Jalk, with him qualifying last, although this was probably to allow him to start the sprint at the front, while teammate Jeff took pole position. Jalk would start the sprint at the front, but would falter to Driver H, finishing second. Jalk would once again finish second to a Red Bull, but not Driver H. Instead it was a debuting Astral, Red Bull, who would take victory. It was Jalk's fourth second-place finish of the season, and it wouldn't be the last, as in the next round at the Red Bull Ring, despite taking pole once again, Jalk would finish second in the sprint behind Driver H and would finish runner-up behind Roscope in what is to this day, the closest finishing margin in GCOR GT history. It was an agonizing defeat which allowed Driver H to close the gap in the championship fight, and with rumors circulating that the championship would end early, Jalk required a good finish at the next race, GCOR GT's crown jewel event, the Bathurst 150. The Bathurst 150 was bound to be a difficult race for Jalk. Driver H had been front and center of the last Bathurst 150, taking his first ever GCOR victory in the process after a thrilling late race battle with lightning. Jalk had never competed in the famous race, and therefore was not well experienced of its brutal and endless nature. He would qualify third behind the two Red Bulls, and would finish third behind them too, with Driver H victorious once again. This victory placed him 4 points ahead of Jalk in the standings. Following this race, and the race after at Spa, the GCOR GT Season 3 came to an end, meaning that Driver H had won the title by a mere 4 points over Jalk. Red Bull also took home the Constructors' title, with GN7 in second place for the second season running. As GCOR GT entered hiatus, many were left questioning what would have happened if the championship was not ended early. In June 2025, GCOR GT returned from hiatus, entering a new era. GCOR GT's flagship series would be renamed to GT Elite, with the vehicle class changing from GT3 machines to GT500 Group 2 powerhouses. It was to be a season of vast change, with many previous drivers now retired from the series. The only remaining drivers from GT Season 3 were Jalk, Gold and Bally as main drivers, and Roscope and Driver H dropping down to reserve duties. GN7, Red Bull, now Red Bull Petronas, and Airspeed would return to the series, with changing lineups and mindsets. Gold would transform Triumph Racing into Apex Racing Team or ART, marking a shift in the lineage, while JBEM would separate from Airspeed to form their own team. Despite all of the dynamic shifts, GN7 would again sign Jalk to pilot the Honda NSX, with him now serving as the face of GN7's GT program. He was joined by Finizio as the other main driver, with Storm and a returning Chaconas as the reserve drivers. The Elite era brought all sorts of questions with it, and as usual, these would be answered at Autopolis. As round 1 at Autopolis began, it became clear that the GCOR GT Elite Series had increased in its competitiveness, with the levels rising, requiring that killer instinct to not just win races, but even to finish in the points. Qualifying was the true first sign of this, with the introduction of the Q1 and Q2 system, where the top 6 from Q1 advanced to the 5-minute shootout. While Finizio advanced, Jalk did not, qualifying in 14th place. He would start at the front for the sprint, but could not convert this into points, recording an 8th place finish. Likewise in the race, he could only muster up a 7th place finish, good enough for 2 points on the first outing, with Finizio in P2. The main headline from Autopolis, however, was the revelation of GCOR GT's new star driver, Cam Red Bull Petronas, who had taken pole, won the sprint, and then won the race in a dominant effort. People were already putting his name forward as the title favorite, and were wondering if anybody could challenge him. It seemed to be history repeating itself for Jalk. If he was to fight for this championship, he would have to up his game.